Hi and welcome back to Small Talk with Tanya Malik. Our today's session is not a talk but a debate. No, not that kind. This is going to be a civilized, constructive discussion between two individuals with opposing views. And as the moderator, I promise I will try really hard to remain unbiased. We live in a patriarchal society, and there exists an unsaid hierarchy of gender. Men are seen as protectors in the society because women are seen as fragile, someone who needs to be protected. The society has made men the protectors, caretakers, providers and owners of their women. The now amended adultery law is a great example of this. Now the Indian, or actually the traditional Indian family, is based on this belief. And then came along the feminists. A feminist believes that any bond or association that a woman has with a man must be based on her choice alone and not for caretaking or protection. As the feminist movement evolved, we saw a huge legal reform. The same legal system that once stripped women of their independence changed into a set of laws that are female-centric. Today, the Section 375 of the Indian Penal Code, or the rape laws, are a great example of this. However, we also saw a sharp increase in cases of domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual harassment at workplace, and even a sharp increase in the rate of divorce. While women or feminists will argue that this is because women have found the courage by law to stand up for themselves. A lot of men's rights activists will argue and believe that these laws are more often misused as a means to attack men and destroy the traditional Indian family. So let's hear from our experts. Miss Audrey de Mello, she is the director of a women's rights organization called Majlis, and Mr. Roopenshu Singh, who is a Supreme Court lawyer and the representative of a men's rights organization called the Save Indian Family. I will request Mr. Roopenshu Singh to please begin this discussion by stating his opinion on the statement, "Is feminism destroying the traditional Indian family?"
This war is going on, and if we see who are in the top positions in our society, if I'll ask that how many percentage of men are on top societies, if we see in corporate who are on top positions, majorly men, in judiciary or in other sects or in politics who are or in the top positions, men majorly. But if we see that this percentage of men, how many percent of these men are actually there? So it would around only 1%, majorly 1% out of total 100% of men's population in our India. So what about those 99% of men? Are they getting benefit? Are they not getting oppressed by those 1% men or other person? If I'll say this whole men's rights organizations and men's rights activism and men's rights movement, it has nothing to do with what women are doing for their own rights. But when these whole movements, feminist movement turns around and they will say that all men are rapists, so what they are doing, they are generalizing the sentence for every man. What we are saying, we are terming that a crime is a crime. Don't associate it with a gender. If you are associating with a gender, then it includes everyone. Every male member of every house. So we are just saying that whatever, if there was a crime, so don't associate with a gender. If there was a crime, then obviously go prosecute him, punish him, convict him. Whatever be the case is, it's going to that way, in that sense. But if you'll punish and if you'll generalize the sentence, then what happens? There is a phobia. Right now, there was many men in southern part of India who doesn't want to get remarried again. Why they don't want to be remarried? Is there any money problem? No, they don't have. There was a new culture which is trending. That is called MG Tao. Men going towards their own way. What they are doing, there's a huge community which is building up. They don't want to get married again because they have a kind of a phobia that if they get married again, if they come into a relationship with any other woman, so there could be multiple number of chances that they got some because of their previous bad experience. They don't want to get any new chance again. So we are saying that let's what our society is remain keep the society as it. Don't we are not saying that, and we are not saying that women who are independent. So if they are independent, very well, and we appreciate that. If you are independent and well with, very good, very nice. And if you're saying that I'm independent and I'm whole and I can do anything, and on the other hand you're saying that I'm a victim and I want these things from men, so that would be a different angle, a different aspect. If you're independent woman, then go ahead. And we actually want that every human being should be there, should be stand on their own. And on the one hand, you are asking for an alimony, and on the other hand, you are saying that okay, we are independent. I don't want. I'll say that how I want to spend my money, I'll spend by my own choice. That's okay. That's for your choice, your money. But why are you asking that money out of after filing n multiple number of cases, and after destroying his career, and then also you were asking him money? If you want money, then okay, ask him. Obviously, he loved you. That's why he got he married you. Okay, and if the only problem is about the money, then ask him the money straight away. He'll give you. Why you are destroying his career first of all? And after his career got destroyed, his family got ruined, everything got destroyed, and after you were saying that okay, I want money also. In end of the day, there was a settlement. There was in all maximum number of cases, there was a settlement in the end. And if there was a settlement, then why you are going on the first end? Just why you are filing these n number of cases? And if they say that men are doing wrong to the women, then who are these men? Identify them. They are only majorly 1%. They are not friends of women. They are not friends of men. They are oppressors. So
all right,
we are fighting against these oppressors actually.
I think it's interesting that you use the word feminism, which I think there is a lot of confusion about and misunderstanding about. And at the same time, we are describing the traditional Indian family. And it makes me wonder, what is the traditional Indian family? Because if the traditional Indian family is fair, is just, is kind, takes care of every member of the family, then I don't think feminism would have any problem with the traditional Indian family. But I think, so I work with an organization which helps women facing domestic violence and sexual abuse, and we've been doing this for the past 27 years. And in my experience, what I see is even today, women, however much you may be educated, however high you are in a position in your workplace, there's always an expectation to be part of a family. You are never considered settled unless you are married, and so we all work within this framework, and that is what everyone aspires to do. And I think what feminism is trying to say is that if there is anything that is discriminatory, that is unjust, that is unfair, that is happening within families, then that should stop. They're telling women that you can stand up, you can assert for your rights, and these are women who are unable to assert their rights. So I think Mr. Roopenshu and me are really on the same side when we are saying that we want equality for women. We don't want anyone to be discriminated against. We don't want violence in families. We want healthy, loving families which share an equal role and equal participation in building this family. And feminism is hoping to do that. So it would be incorrect to think of feminism as being anti-men. I think feminism is anti-patriarchy, and patriarchy is across men and women. It's a vicious system that ensures that women have to constantly be in this role of being submissive, of being of adhering and having to bear the weight of maintaining the family, having to do all chores in the home so that the family is happy, so that men can go to work and have everything available to them, that children can be nurtured, that old people and sick people can be taken care of, and this entire responsibility is on women. And I think the moment, it's interesting to see that the moment that women understand these rights and understand that they can ask for equality is when the whole family system gets shaken and people start getting uncomfortable with it. So I feel like feminism is not anti-men, it is anti-patriarchy, and traditional Indian families will have to really look deep within them to see, are they just, fair and equitable to all members of that family.
All right, lovely. Let's quickly move into a short rebuttal session. I'll request again Mr. Roopenshu Singh to make his statement in response to what Miss Audrey de Mello just said. We will limit this session to 2 minutes for each guest, please. So, Mr. Roopenshu, request you to begin.
I'll just quickly end up. What you have said about the feminism is not exactly what's going on right now. If we'll talk about the same statement, if I heard the same statement 40 years ago, then obviously I'll agree. What's happening right now is totally different. Or maybe she'll agree with me on this point that the person who is more oppressed is likely to commit more suicide. So if I'll say about the suicide rate of India in India, men is 3 times more than the women. The current statistics of 2019 says that it was around 97,000. I'll have written down. It's 97,613 men who committed suicide, and this is increasing 6% every year. And why these men are committing suicide? The highest rate is from this 97,613 men, 66.7% are married men who committed suicide due to family issues. And what are these family issues? Why you are thinking that these families have shaken up when you are saying that when the woman have came to know about her rights, then the family shaken up. See, the whole picture is not as what we are looking. It's totally different, and what we hear from our stories is something different, which is not what we are. See, I'll just differ on this slight point about the family and traditions and about the suicide rates, increasing suicide rates of Indian men due to family issues and due to whole structure. The pressure on men is increasing day by day. He called an ATM machine, and there were so many things which he was called upon. If he agree on doing sexual intercourse, then it's fine. He could be a pervert. He could be anything else. So there were so many tasks which were put on a man on daily basis, and day by day this pressure is increasing, and he is not coping up. He's not trained into the same thing. Actually, as decade by decade, men are not trained as actually how to live in this society as per the new rules of our society. That is the major issue. When there's something new came up in front of him, he's not trained to get into the same thing. That is the major issue about this mental trauma. Because whenever you get married, you say that you have your high wishes and dreams, and you say that this is a Saat Janmo ka Bandhan, and one fine day this all got shaken up and destroyed in a second, and he didn't know what to do next because nobody have trained him. There could be a situation like this in at any moment in your life because he is not trained. That is also one of the issues of this whole thing about the men's and the women's and the feminism and the men's rights movement. This is also one of the cause actually, which is really building up in men's minds, and they are not coping up with the same thing.
So actually, Mr. Roopenshu did not focus on feminism. I think he was talking about marriages and what is happening, in his opinion, on what are the disputes between when there are disputes, how these cases unfold. It's interesting that he calls men as ATM machines, and he talks about how women are only focusing on men providing them with the money, because the reality is so different from maybe my reality, and what I see is so different from this. And the reality is this, that right from the beginning, we make choices of having boy children, and nobody wants girl children. When a girl child is born, there is a fear, there is a constant worry of how she will be brought up in this society, and that comes from the fact that we have systems like dowry very much prevalent in our country, in our society. I'm sure audiences in this group will go on to get married and pay dowry and receive dowry. Families are extremely worried about this. When we talk about nutrition to girl children, when we talk about education of girl children, in the most affluent families, we are restricting girl children from even picking up roles that can provide them with an income and help them stand up on their own feet. We're constantly pushing girls into professions where it is always understood that at some point of time you will have to withdraw from the profession. And I'm talking about professions like even mine, women who are lawyers. We study law, and then the understanding is that you will get married, and so you will have to pick a profession where you cannot, you will not be able to practice full time, you will not be able to function in a role. So women are preferring to have roles more in the service, more in providing support, and where they can have flexibility. Roles like teachers, roles like nurses, which are paid very poorly and don't, and allow them the flexibility to manage their families. And then when they get married, which is the expectation of all families, that you will get married, the first expectation is that she will compromise to the extent of being at home so that she can be the nurturer, she can be the person who manages the home. And suddenly when there is a dispute, then we want to ignore all these facts and then talk about women as demanding or as being money seekers and all kinds of terms to them. Why? Because she is asking for her right of maintenance, to lead an existence and to be able to survive. And these are cases where there have been violence in the home. These are cases where the men have had relationships outside and want to move away from that marriage. And then when it comes to providing her, then she is the gold digger. So I think that it is interesting that the biggest problem that I'm hearing that Mr. Roopenshu is talking about is that women want money, and that is the problem. And I think it is because of education, because of the fact that we have learned that we have these rights and that we can ask for these rights. And this is what is shaking up families. Families are getting extremely uncomfortable that women are aware that she can be protected within her family. We have laws to protect her, even if she stays in the family, even if she has to leave the family. And this is what is causing tremendous shaking the system, literally, where people then want to say that, when I hear that people say women are misusing the law, actually what I hear is women are using the law, and how dare they use the law. They should not be using the law. They should be sitting quietly at home and doing the role that has been prescribed for them, and they should not be questioning anything. That is the expectation. The moment she questions, it's a problem. I just want to answer Mr. Roopenshu on the fact that he talked about suicide of men. I have gone through this data, and the fact is that majority of men are committing suicide, and that's a fact. These are many reasons. It's the way women are brought up. It's also the way, because as a nurturer, to give up your life is an extremely difficult step, because you have so many people depending on you. There are many reasons why more men commit suicide than women, and we can have a whole debate on that. But the fact is, men are committing suicide because of a lot of pressure in terms of the workplace, in terms of what is happening in their interactions with the outside world. These may be married men, but this is not the reason why they're committing suicide. So it is one should look into that data and understand. Actually, we have among our audience some people who work with suicide, and maybe we can have a separate session on why this happens.
Great. I think this is turning out to be a very interesting discussion. Before we continue this, I want to quickly move into a short one-on-one question answer session. So I'm going to direct a few questions to our guests directly and request them to please spare 2 minutes to answer each question. My first question is to Mr. Roopenshu Singh. You said that feminism is fair when women are fighting for their rights, but they shouldn't stand up and say all men. And men don't have issues when women are fighting for their rights. It only becomes an issue when they are blaming men for their suffering and claiming themselves to be victims. However, would you agree that the conversation about men's rights always comes up as a response to women standing up to their rights rather than being a standalone conversation for men?
It's not about a right. It's about when you are generalizing the term men and you are saying that men are the men are everything bad happens is actually tagged with the men. So that's wrong. That's totally wrong. When there was something when you were talking about women's rights and when you were talking about feminism, so the term feminism has gone so bad these days, and whenever you talk about feminism, you started blaming men for everything. If you follow Twitter, if you follow Facebook, if you follow any feminism page, like Feminism in India page, where I have seen multiple number of posts where they have blamed and they have said so bad words to all men to male society. So that's where our problem starts. So our problem starts there, and when she said about the suicide, that there was multiple number of other issues by which men commit suicide. So yes, we can have a whole debate on that topic as well. And I'm pretty agree on that point that there was different issues, but the majority of issues, and that's the fact, is the family issues and the family pressure. And these men are married men, and majorly when she said about the problem starts when she talks about her own right, and when the major problem is when you are talking about the right, you are not talking about the responsibility also. And when you talk about men, you only talk about responsibility, you don't talk about the rights of a man. If you'll go to a park and if you'll see a statue, that also is protected under some code. If you see a tree, that's also protected. But if you talk about men, so is he protected? No, there was no protection for him at all in this nation, in India, where you say that this whole society is a patriarchal society and we run on that. So there was no protection at all. There was no platform. There was no protection laws. There was nothing at all. If any man was stalked by anyone, if any man raped by someone, sexually abused by someone, if a man got stalked or anything bad happened, is he protected? No, there is no forum at all. If he'll go to a police station, he used to hear bad words from the other policemen who will say that XYZ, we are aware of what maximum number of times police people behave in these type of cases. So why we are saying about men's issues and about the feminism, that's a total different aspect, and there were so many facts which I cannot tell because I don't want to pick bits and pieces in this conversation. So that could be a whole different issue and different debate on that topic as well.
What you mentioned was my next question for Miss Audrey de Mello. Miss de Mello, you said feminism is for everyone. It stands for equality. But like Mr. Singh said, most of the laws today are not gender neutral. They are in fact female centric. Don't you think these laws reinforce the stereotype that a criminal can only be a man and women are the weaker sex who needs protection? To state a few of these laws, there's Section 47, the Code of Criminal Procedure, the sexual harassment of women at workplace, or even the Section 375 of the Indian Penal Code or the rape laws. To share an example here, there was this case of Priya Patel versus State of Madhya Pradesh, where women were accused of gang rape. But the court denied this by saying that women cannot be said to have an intention to commit rape. In your opinion, doesn't this once again reinforce the patriarchal ideology that suppresses female sexual independence or autonomy? And should a feminist favor the criminal law amendment bill which proposes to make the offence of rape gender neutral.
So I'm glad Mr. Roopenshu is a Supreme Court lawyer, and but I was surprised when he said, and even you repeated, that there are no laws for men. And this is so strange, because all laws are for everyone. Our constitution protects everyone. We believe in equality. And I don't know where this notion has come from, that men don't have rights. So if you are assaulted, you have a right. If you are robbed, you have a right. If you are in any way attacked, the criminal law protects you. So it would be incorrect to say that men don't have rights. However, as you are well aware, that the Constitution has understood that there are certain criteria of people in our country who are discriminated and have been discriminated for centuries, because of which they need special protection. And in that, we have Article 15.3, which specially talks about women and children. And the state is allowed or is expected to create special laws for women and children, so that we can deal with this inequality which has been layered for centuries and centuries, to help bring about some equality and give them some respite to be able to even dream of an equality. We have the same for Dalits and tribals, and this is necessary. I mean, I'm sure in another forum people will argue, why do we have special laws for Dalits and tribals? But the fact is that these are oppressed communities. Women and children have to get special laws so that they can. So we have a notion of equality. There is equality in our country. I hope neither the host nor the panelist is confused that men don't have rights. Men have all rights. Everybody is equal in our country. And then the government or the state is expected to have special laws to help certain minority communities or certain oppressed communities. Having said that, I really want to, I read about this case that you are mentioning, where you talk about gang rape by women. Just want to clarify what the case was. This was a woman, the victim was a woman who was traveling, and this man goes to the railway station to pick her up and takes her to the room and rapes her, right? Thereafter, the wife of this accused comes into the room, slaps this woman, even though the victim asked for help. She does not offer any help. She slaps her, and then she leaves the room and goes away. That's the case, right? So when we talk about gang rape and the way it was described, it feels like a woman tried to penetrate another woman, right? And that did not happen. Definitely there was abetment, and definitely it is a crime, and it's a crime in rape. It includes men and women. But the fact that some things are physically not possible, right? So rape, because it is penovaginal, it is not considered, has never been considered as rape. And two is that we now have Child Sexual Offences Act, which talks about both men and women who can be accused, and both girls and boys who can be victims. So I think we will have to understand why certain laws are made for women and where does that come from. If you take, for example, why do women need special seats in buses? Why do we need a special compartment in trains? To understand that, you have to understand in what circumstances that women leave the house, how they access workplaces, what they go through in terms of sexual molestation, in terms of so many other violence, that the state then creates certain reservations for them to protect them. When you talk about sexual harassment at workplace, I think Mr. Roopenshu also would be aware that it was a huge debate in the parliament. To understand, and if you know that the Bhavri Devi case happened in 1987, it took 40 years for the law to come. We got the law only in 2013. It is because that sexual harassment, there is a code of conduct in offices. There should be no harassment to anybody who enters the workspace, and every person, men or women, are protected from any harassment in the workplace. But sexual harassment of women is a grave reality. It is a reality that is plaguing our economic system, which is not allowing women to work at workplaces, which is making them withdraw from workplaces, and it is in such a humongous, huge number. That is why the government had to take action and to bring a law like this. So it is not that if men are sexually or otherwise harassed at the workplace, there is no law. That is incorrect. There is a law, both criminal and within workspaces, to protect men or women who are harassed. However, this is under Article 15.3, a special law for women, and nobody is violating anything by giving a special law to women.
Going back to Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh, you spoke about alimony or women asking for maintenance and how they are favored in such cases. Like Ms. De Mello also highlighted, this comes from an age-old idea that women are primary caregivers and expected to prioritize family over their own career, which inevitably leads to financial dependence. While men, on the other hand, are encouraged to be primary earners. So in your opinion, is the men's rights activists, or the fight for men's rights, a fight against feminism? Is that the solution to this issue?
See, we are not fighting against feminism. We are fighting for our own rights. We are saying that men are humans too. Do we really consider state of mind of a man which he goes through from daily basis, from starting of a day till midnight? What things he has to from his office, from his home. So he gone through a lot of things, but nobody understands that. Nobody understands his mental trauma, what he is going through. Nobody understands his pressure under which he is going to his workplace. So he's traveling in public transport. He's going to office. His boss is angry, can be angry on any point. He come back home. His family is pressurizing him on every point. So we have to understand also the status of men's human tendency, that how much trauma he is going through it. And she talked, Ms. De Mello talked about the laws, about if he got robbed, so there was law. So I am saying that if any woman stalked him, is there any law? If any woman raped him, and you talk about the vaginal penetration, that is the second part of the definition of rape. But if we go to the basic structure of 375, that is about the consent, that is mens rea. If it's about the mens rea, that would be a consent. Consent can be from any gender. It can be a man, it can be a woman. So why you are only talking about men as an abuser and women as a victim? Why not gender neutral? And we are living in a 21st century where men and women are on equal equal spaces. They have their own education. They are going in colleges by their own. They are having good education. They are having good jobs. They are independent souls. But when you came in court and when you say that this fellow is a husband and he should give this much of money to this woman because she is a wife, irrespective of her degree, irrespective of whether she can earn or not, whether she is voluntary not doing her job, or whether she, what is the major issue is coming up there. So we are actually motivating her to stay idle, and whatever education she have, use that education somewhere else, and don't use that education. And that is what we are actually making an army of an idle woman. So I don't think so that this should be a real face of feminism, because if we'll talk about feminism, then I'll see Kalpana Chawla. If you see about the feminism, if I'll see about the feminism, then I'll see the Mary Kom. If I'll talk about the feminism, then I'll see there were a number of women who are doing very well in their jobs, very well in their fields. So we should appreciate them, and we should look to them as an idol for feminism. We should not look to someone who have a doctorate degree, but he was sitting idle just for the reason that he could take alimony or maintenance from her husband. That shouldn't be the point. And we should also understand about the laws. Why should be gender neutral? And the same aspect about posh laws. So there was an AVP of Genpact named Sarup Raj who committed suicide. In his suicide note, what he wrote that today, even if I'll say that I haven't done anything wrong and it was a false accusation upon me or of molestation by a colleague, then also this society will not accept me if I'll come out innocent. That's for the reason he committed suicide, that it was so much pressure on the whole society, and it was so much taboo. If someone is blamed or been accused of some sexual offense, then he would be media trial, and he would be like it was something that he become out part of the society, and the society will not accept him again on the same page. So it was so peer pressure that he maximum number of people can't understand that pressure and can't handle that pressure, and then end up committing suicide. Then we have to handle this situation, because this situation is getting worse day by day, and this whole war is not legally, but this war is also socially, actually, because this is society which is killing men every day.
All right. Okay. I'm going to go back to Miss Audrey DeMello. You spoke about a couple of social norms, especially the ones favoring boy child. Do you agree that a lot of times women themselves are torchbearers to these ideologies or torchbearers of patriarchy?
Yeah, they are. The system, patriarchy is such that it kind of seeps into everyone, and we all believe that we have to cater to it in order to survive. So patriarchy is perpetuated by both men and women, and both men and women can be feminists and are feminists. And I would like to invite Mr. Roopenshu to engage with maybe a different kind of feminist who can explain that feminism is not anti-men. Feminism is anti-patriarchy, and I think even Mr. Roopenshu is against patriarchy, because he's talking about equality, he's talking about women being able to stand on their own feet, he's talking about them being independent and sharing equal responsibility with men, so that men can share responsibility at home and women can share responsibility in the workplace, and it would be a more just, fair and an equitable family. So I think that Mr. Roopenshu can be a feminist.
Absolutely. In fact, that was going to be my last question to Mr. Singh. Like Ms. DeMello said, that a lot of what you mentioned was actually against patriarchy, and you said that you are in favor of men and women both standing for their rights. So tell me, what stops you from calling yourself a feminist?
Thanks for the invitation, and I really appreciate that you've given me such an opportunity for calling me a feminist. But I'm really sorry that I'm really happy calling myself as a men's rights activist, and I think so that till my last I'll be a men's rights activist. And maybe if there was a 10 years ago, then obviously I would be happy to call me a feminist, but I'm no more a feminist. And I'll pray to God. I'm thankful to God, and I'm not a feminist anymore, because I really don't understand the new definition and new terminology that's being used by feminism these days. And this is not the same definition which was used 20 years or 30 years ago, or specifically in 1963, when the whole feminism movement have started. That was a different era. There were different things. But today, if I see feminism, that was a totally different thing. And I'll appreciate if Ms. DeMello will come to our center any day, and if she see such stories of the people who are being the victim of these abusive laws, and we have lakhs of members in our this foundation, Saved and Family Foundation, who are victim of these abusive laws, and there were so much things. Actually, they have suffered a lot. And 2.5 lakhs we have in counting around, and there were many more. So I really welcome her, and at any place in Mumbai also we have people there. We have units, and she lives in Mumbai, so that's why otherwise whenever she is coming to Delhi, she is most welcome to visit our center. And in Bangalore also she can visit. She can visit anywhere actually. We have number of places in all over India and around the world also. So she can go anywhere. So, and at least experience once that how feminism is destroying men's lives, actually, at least once. So maybe there was something actually we can give us about the whole men's issues and men's movement, and maybe she would like to join our movement rather than going into feminism anymore.
Okay, so I think it's fair for us to now move into the last segment of the closing statements. I'll request Ms. DeMello to please begin with the closing statements. Once again, we will limit this to 2 minutes per guest, please.
I just want to share some statistics which I felt were really important to put into perspective. So one of the things we keep hearing is these false cases filed by women, right? And I think that it's important for us to acknowledge that um, 1 in 3 women, this is, I'm talking about 10-year-old family and family welfare census data, is facing domestic violence. And this is, I'm talking about physical abuse, mental abuse, various kind of domestic violence. And having said that, if you see how many cases of 498A, cruelty by husband and relatives, which is considered the epitome of misuse of cases by women, we have about a lakh and 10,000 cases across the country recorded each year. Okay, and that, in my opinion, is a minuscule. It's just goes to show how unreported cases of domestic violence are. But what I've really found shocking is that we have a law called 304B, which is dowry death. These are cases where women have died. And these are cases where the woman has been married for less than 7 years and she has faced cruelty by husband and relatives. And this cruelty has caused death. And so what we're saying is that of these 1 lakh cases, almost 8 to 9% of the cases, the women have died. They're just dead. And these are not, I'm talking about throughout the marriage. This is not all marriages. This is only women who have been married for the first 7 years. So that is the kind of violence that we're talking about that persists in our country, and in this country where Mr. Roopenshu is talking about equality. Today women are educated, they have everything. I don't know where we get this perspective. Who are these women who have everything? Who are these women who have complete equality, who are living in this world where they have no gender inequality and they're just like sailing through life? I don't meet these women. I cannot say this for myself. I cannot say this for my daughters. I cannot say this for the women who come to us and seek for help. So when we talk about misuse of laws, I think we really need to take a good hard look at how do we protect women in families? How do we ensure equality to women? How do we create safe spaces for women, that we don't need to file these cases, that we don't need to use these laws? And I think that should be the focus of anybody, whether it's men, women, men's rights organizations or women's rights organizations, is how do we ensure that women are truly living a life of equality without fear, without the fear of stepping out of their home and not knowing whether they're going to be raped or they're going to be molested. All the violence that they face within their homes, whether it's in their parents' home or after marriage in their husbands' homes. This is what we should work at, as to how do we ensure that women do not fear, do not feel threatened, and can live a life of just bare decency and equality, so that we can have a more just society, and we all need to work for that.
Thank you so much for that. Request Mr. Singh to please help us with his closing statement.
Yeah, Ms. Timelo just about gave us some statistics, so I also want to share some statistics, because from starting this debate, nearly about 4 men have already been committed suicide. So in every 7.5 minutes, there was a man who committed suicide in India. And talking about these statistics more oftenly, there was a National Health Family Survey where women has been asked that whether in their lifetime have they ever done domestic violence on their husband. So nearly 1%, which is around 2.5 crore in total, have accepted the fact that once in a lifetime they have done domestic violence on their husband. So which is more than population of Australia and population of New Zealand. So this this question is only asked to women, not to men. So this question never asked to men also. So there should be some survey for men also, that whether they have faced any domestic violence from his partner in their lifetime or not. So obviously some facts will come on table, and whether we after that we can discuss about more statistical facts and about men, because what we are discussing about feminism and some men's issues also along with that. And first of all, I want to end up my whole thing with one sentence, that whole men's rights movement is not anti-women. If it's anti-women, then we have number of men's activists who are women. If I'll name them, one is Deepika and Bharadwaj, second is Arnaz, who is running very good her own website called Men's Day Out. You can go and check her website, and you can see there was number of articles and newsletters where there were so many reports every day about men being victim of these abusive laws. And you can go, and after this debate, you can check the website also. And about all, I wish that men can live fearlessly also in the society legally, and they should have some gender neutral laws by which they can be protected against false cases and abuses where they bear. And maybe police also can understand that women can also commit crime, and crime is a crime, and we should not associate with gender. If there was any criminal, so punish him, convict him, whatever be the punishment is, go and punish him. But don't think that men can only be a criminal and women can only be a victim. Both, there was no relationship between both of them. So we should not relate these things, and we should see this as a gender neutral thing, and specifically power to everyone, men and women both, and they should go and become independent and have some more to both of them. Thank you.
All right, great. I think this was a very interesting discussion. What I have realized from this is that both men's rights activists as well as women's rights activists are basically fighting for the same thing. We are fighting against gender norms. We are fighting against stereotypical ideologies of patriarchy. We are fighting for a family or society in which both men and women can have some independence and space for individual growth. So let me ask you, the viewers, why are we fighting against each other rather than fighting together to bring down patriarchy? And thank you so much to both our guests, Ms. Audrey DeMello and Mr. Roopenshu Singh. Thank you for taking the time to do this with us today. This was extremely interesting and very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tanya.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this debate. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And to stay tuned for more small talk, you can follow us on our social media. All the handles are mentioned below in the caption. Stay tuned and take care of yourself.